Almost. Major. Holy fucking shit, this is major! Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Almost Major, where we talk about the many major studios and the films they released. My name is Kevin Tudor. I'm here with Charlie Nash.
Hello.
And Bryden Doyle.
Hello.
And joining us again is Natalia Keogan. How are you?
I'm good. Happy to be back.
Hell yeah. And today we're talking about An Impudent Girl from 1985. This is also, the French title is L'Effronté, which translates to The Cheeky One. This was released in France, December 11th, 1985. Premiered in United States, the New York Film Festival, September 24th, 1986. But the only release date I could see for the United States is that release date, which was on a Wednesday. So I don't know when this came out in the United States. I cannot find anything about it even being a New Line Cinema movie besides it being on the Wikipedia page for New Line Cinema Films. So who knows? This was also around the time that they released Sincerely Charlotte. So maybe I could see it. Charlotte Gainsbourg won the Caesar Award for Most Promising Actress, and Bernadette Lafont won the Caesar Award for Best Actress in a Supporting Role. Also won the Louis Deluc Prize and received Caesar nominations for Best Film, Best Director, Most Promising Actor, Best Writing, Best Costume Design, and Best Sound. Jesus Christ. I could not find anything about the budget opening weekend or the gross, but the top 5 films of this proposed weekend that it may have came out is Crocodile Dundee, Stand By Me, Top Gun, The Boy Who Could Fly, which I've never heard of, and The Karate Kid Part 2. Now I looked it up, and The Boy Who Could Fly, I believe that, oh god, who directed that? I forgot. But it's literally about like autism. So that I'm sure that's
Nick Castle,
well.
the
Nick
shape
Castle.
himself. Yeah.
Yeah. What's is anybody, I think, no, I've only seen Stand By Me and Top Gun, actually. I've not seen Crocodile Dundee. What's wrong with me?
I haven't. I know all the Simpsons jokes.
Well, yeah.
I feel like I have seen Crocodile Dundee through cultural osmosis. I just haven't.
I've only seen the third one.
Is that the one that came out in like 2001?
Yes.
Yeah.
The commercial had a reference to Anaconda, so I had to watch it. Yeah. Karate Kid Part 2, I will watch it.
Yeah,
I just watched Karate Kid for the first time. You know what? That's a fun movie.
Yeah.
Number 1 song in the U.S. this week and in Canada this week is Stuck With You by Huey Lewis and the News. Hell yeah. Plot description from Google. A girl from a rundown neighborhood befriends a pianist from the other side of the tracks. Sure. Written by Claude Miller, Luc Barrant, Bernard Stora, and Annie Miller. Okay. Directed by Claude Miller. Prior to this, The Inquisitor in 1981. Deadly Circuit in 1983. After this, The Little Thief in 1988, which also stars Charlotte Gainsbourg. Starring Charlotte Gainsbourg as Charlotte Castaigne. Only her third movie and her first starring role. After this, apparently she was in 21 Grams. I don't remember that, and I'm sorry to hear that.
She was married to Sean Penn. It was a pretty bad... That was the first thing I ever saw Charlotte Gainsbourg in, was 21 Grams. She has a pretty thankless role. She's, Sean Penn's fed-up wife who... is obviously...
You don't even know how
pissed.
much a soul weighs, Sean Penn. And then, yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty much, yeah. I mean, basically her scenes are Sean Penn is basically just pissing her off, and she's just like, you're a fucking asshole, and then walks out of the room. And she's right. Her character's right all the time. But yeah.
God. I'm so glad I remember nothing about 21 Grams, and I saw it like a year ago. It feels good.
God, I was obsessed with that movie as a teenager, and
saw Babel for the first time like a year ago. Don't remember anything about it. Feels good. Feels so good.
There was a period of time where I was a teenager where I was just obsessed with movies that are, Memento, which I still think is a masterpiece, but the 21 Grams does not hold up. Me and Inuyaritu don't get along anymore, but I still think the only watch is really... Yeah. I remember my parents rented it, and they were like, we thought it was going to be about drugs.
I mean, that's what I thought, too. And I'm watching it. I'm just like, oh, what is this? Come on.
Miserable.
Naomi Watts. I know.
Yeah. Naomi Watts is so... I will vouch for Naomi Watts and Benicio del Toro in that movie, though. Look, they're put through emotionally manipulative hell because Inuyaritu is a sadist, but and not a fun one, but she's so good in that movie, and he is too. So
imagine that Lisa is saying like, oh, this guy's a sadist, and he's not even a fun one.
Well, I like filmmakers who are sadists. I do. I mean, I have no problem. He's one of those sadists who thinks that just pain itself is profound. Suffering in itself is art, and it's just like you're not saying.
And then a few years later, he's like, you know what real pain is? It's when film critics write bad reviews about you, and I'm just like, all right, man.
We've talked about it, Dogville. I love Lars von Trier. He's a fucking sadist, but at least he knows he is.
I was about to say, and also she's starring in I'm Not There in 2007, Antichrist in 2009. Charlie, I'll give you I don't know, if you need 20 minutes to talk about her in Melancholia.
Oh, I fucking adore that movie, and she's so good in it. I did think it was interesting in the Criterion Closet video, she pulled out Antichrist, of course, and she was like, oh, I just love Lars. And what I did think was interesting was she said Lars. Melancholia was the film that she's most proud of, but I'd say that's still Kirsten Dunst's movie. I guess they're co-leads, but she definitely has the more straight woman role in that movie, and she definitely has more scenery to chew in Antichrist and Nymphomaniac, and very divisive, controversial films. Whatever you think about those movies, I don't think you can deny how fucking incredible she is in them.
I'm with you. I'm 100% with you.
Nymphomaniac in 2013, and of course, Independence Day Resurgence in 2016.
Wait, she's in that?
Yeah. She's 20th build.
I was trying to remember what disaster movie it was that she was in. I was like, was it Moonfall? And I was like, no. Independence Day 2. That was the other one.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
What?
I mean, she gotta eat, I guess.
What if she was what if she was the villain? What if she was just the head of the alien race? That would be amazing.
What if she voiced an alien? Oh yeah, and she's in The Snowman. What is wrong with me?
I was gonna say, I think that's maybe the first movie I saw her in.
No! Brian, no!
The Snowman?
Yes!
Oh my god. I tried to go see that movie, and the theater worker literally tried to talk me out of it at the Sinopolis Chelsea or whatever.
Wow.
Yeah, I saw that at a press screening, and thank God for that. She's also in Dark Crimes, that Jim Carrey movie nobody knows about. Remember that? I don't know.
Side note, the theater goer trying to talk you out of it, did he succeed?
No, I went.
You went? Okay.
No, I was like, that's what I'm seeing today.
There was
the Subway ads where it's like, Mr. Police. I was like, I'm gonna have a good time. But I did.
Yeah, you don't show up to the Snowman being like, oh, really? I thought it would be good. Be like, no, I'm here for
exactly.
trash.
I was kind of
I did think that for a couple of months that movie might be good because the trailer says a massive attack. I was like, this does look kind of cool. And then,
that's how they get Brian.
Wait, it's the Massive Attack song in the trailer. It's not Thomas Alfredson who did Let the Right One In or Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy. You're like, that is a Massive Attack
I had
song.
seen Let the Right One In that I think the summer before, and was like, this guy's supposed to be a good director, right?
Doesn't Chloe 70 show up just to get beheaded in the movie?
She shows up playing another character, a twin, I think.
Yes.
I do. Okay. It just makes me think. I've never had that experience where someone's tried to talk me out of something, but I did have a friend who had free passes to the Emoji Movie and thought it would be fun to get drunk and go see it for shits and giggles. And I was like, well, I'm not going up there to ask for the tickets. And I just overheard him go to for the Emoji Movie, and you could hear the person go, ugh.
Why? Don't worry, our kid's already in there. No, they're not. Theater aid. She isn't, last thing, she is in an Agnes Varda movie that I've never heard of called Kung Fu Master with her and Jane Birkin. A lot of people I follow love this movie.
I think she mentioned in the Criterion Closet video she did that her mother was really good friends with Agnes and that Agnes was over her house all the time. Yeah.
That's definitely true. I mean, the Agnes Varda documentary, with them in it is great.
I need to catch up on my Agnes. I've only seen Cleo from 5 to 7 and Faces Places, and I need that box set so bad.
I think that's all I got, yeah. This is maybe the most what the fuck tagline ever. He was 15, she was 40, love is where you find it.
Oh dear.
Question. No.
Also, isn't it flipped around where she's 15 and he's 40? I don't know.
No, I'm talking about Kung Fu Master, not An Impotent Girl.
Okay, I'm sorry.
but yes, that's pretty much this movie.
That would be really horrible if that's...
Well, so I was like, I don't think that guy read 40 to me.
He's mid-20s? I don't know.
Too old.
Yeah. Well, yeah. But that's Charlotte Gainsbourg, also starring, oh god, Clothed-eyed Bowden as Clara Bowman, Julie Glenn as Lulu, and Bernadette Lafont as Leon. Okay. Does this New Line Cinema film have Lynch? Again, this takes place in France. No, it doesn't. Trivia. This film was a loose adaptation of the novel The Member of the Wedding by Carson McCullers. Although that is uncredited, the director had claimed that the film was inspired by his and his wife's personal memories and various books they had read, and said in an interview, "It isn't a direct adaptation. There were just enough elements for the books to us to apply for the rights. First of all, the Americans who owned them took ages to reply. Then they wanted a huge sum of money, almost as much as the cost of the film. 2 weeks before shooting was scheduled to begin, the rights had not been secured, so Miller decided to go ahead and make the movie anyway. And then they hit the movie with a lawsuit. He said, now we're negotiating to pay a reasonable percentage, he said in 1986. Fortunately, the film has been a hit. Yeah, I don't think you can be like, you're taking so long. We're not going to give you any money, actually. Claude Miller cast Charlotte Gainsbourg after seeing her in her first movie. I'm not even going to try to pronounce that. In 1984, he approached her parents, English actor Jane Birkin and French singer, songwriter, and filmmaker Serge Gainsbourg, for permission to cast her. It helped with the marketability of the film because, as Miller says, Charlotte was in a way already a star because of her parents, and people wanted to see her out of curiosity. Pretty wild. Your third movie, you're already the goddamn lead. Yeah. This was the 11th most successful film of the year at the French box office, I guess. Director Claude Miller revealed that there was supposed to be a masturbation scene in the film. Although the scene was indeed shot, Miller later removed it from the final cut. Quote, when Charlotte picked out some things to go to Claire's, she saw herself naked in the mirror in her room and disappeared behind an armchair. We could see her legs sticking out, although this was made clear that she was masturbating. It was in the script and we shot it. I wasn't feeling very confident when I asked about the scene with Charlotte when we met. I asked her, Paige, etc., does it bother you? We never used the word masturbation. She answered, I remember it very well. Quote, if Dad agrees, I will do what is written in the script. I don't think I ever asked Serge to read this page specifically. We shot the scene and everything. The fact remains that I did not edit this scene. For what? I don't know. Did the scene not work or did I chicken out? The most likely explanation is the scene was not explicit enough. I had filmed it frontally enough. I don't like that. Everything else was good.
That was a big yikes. I would also say the other piece of research I found, because I found that article too from was Gala by Alexis Patry, and I had to use Google Translate to get the French quotes. But there was another article. I guess this movie has played on TV like in France like last year, which is like that's like part of its legacy. But there was an article on programtv.net by Oliver Rashman who said that there's this quote that's just like, it speaks to just like how like people should just be better about speaking about young actors. But it says after filming the film, Charlotte Gainsbourg, and again this is Google Translate, so take this with some grains of salt, but had to ensure a minimum of intervention where her exacerbated shyness clashed with the exercise of self-promotion. The fact remains, this daughter of had then seduced a large number of critics, but also spectators touched by her modesty and her grace, which totally identified with the character. I'm just like, you couldn't have like use a better word to like to talk about that. I mean, like it's like just ugh. Yeah. And then like they're also talking about like in that article by Alexis Patry where they're talking about like that scene that they cut out, and that says in the article, by chance in the cinema, Charlotte Gainsbourg years later filmed a scene of the same type, but much less modestly staged. I'm like, that is a completely different scenario. She is like in her late 30s when that's happening. It's completely different.
I'm sorry, just that word salad that I read, it was just like 95% of it. It's like, okay, you cut it out. Yeah, I understand. And then at the end, just being like, yeah, it wasn't hot enough. I'm just like, wait, you could have just not said that. You were doing so well. Sorry, Natalia, what were you saying?
Well, I'm just going to say this is from the same young actress whose first single with her father, Serge Gainsbourg, was called Lemon Incest. So that's been part of her image since she was really young and almost like kind of like perpetuated by her parents. So I'm not surprised that they would sign off on that and almost encourage that narrative, because like it wasn't the only piece of media that depicted her at a young age as like a sexual, like seductive, like being. Yeah, fucked up.
Jeez. It's interesting. Just, I mean, this is also just speaking to like Claude Miller, he's no longer alive. He died in 2012. He was 70. But one of the things that was written in this Guardian article about him by Andrew Pulver was talking about in the 80s. You know, I think like, you know, when he was like sort of like making a name for himself. It says they described him as being somewhat left behind as the cinema de Luc took off. And I thought, well, given that Luc Besson is one of the big like proponents of that movement, do you really want to take off with someone like him? But that was just sort of the point that I was thinking. Yeah, and also, Kevin, you mentioned the movie that sort of like was one of his big movies was The Inquisitor in the early 80s, and that was remade in the States by Stephen Hopkins as a movie called Above Suspicion with Morgan Freeman, Gene Hackman, and Monica Bellucci. I've heard that one is not very good, but the remake, I should say. But I'm curious to see the French one. I understand that. I'm kind of with you, Kevin. That I found this movie a bit hard to research because a lot of the articles were in French, or this movie just like it's not as easy to see unless you live in France where it's on TV.
Apparently all the damn time. Yeah,
You just land in France and they give you a DVD copy of this movie.
Oh, thank you so much. You're like, no, I already got one. It's fine. And then lastly, the song that is needle dropped like 9 fucking times in it. It kicks ass. Love the song. It's titled Sarah Perci Ti Amo. And apparently the movie was either released or re-released in Italy under that name because it was such a big thing. It was #1 in Italy at the time. This song is also needle dropped at the start of High Tension, which we covered, I don't know, what was that, like 9 years ago or something like that? That's where I first heard it, so yeah. Yeah, so that is all the trivia I have. Natalia, as our guest, what were your initial thoughts with An Impudent Girl?
So I really liked it a lot. I thought that it is such a interesting look, and I think like the director said this, that like it's like preserving this emotion that you only feel when you're young, where like things are so monumentally important and you're like threatening like self-harm and suicide over like crazy scenarios you've like made up in your head that aren't rooted in reality. I really resonated with that. Like, I don't know, maybe it's because of, again, like I'm a woman here, but I felt like a lot of it was really like true to like the experience without feeling like too voyeuristic, interestingly enough. And I think that that has to do with like how amazing Charlotte Gainsbourg is in the performance, that everything reads so authentic. And I don't know, she just has this like genuine kind of commitment to like exploring it. I don't know, I thought it was good. I liked it quite a bit. Yeah, also, like I think you said that it won for best costumes at the Caesar, and I loved like the costume and production design in this. Like it felt really like just like authentic and just well sourced, and yeah, I was a big fan. I was very like drawn into it visually, narratively. The performance, especially by Charlotte Gainsbourg, is so good. And I liked the girl who played Clara Bowman as well. I thought that that was a really interestingly enough, I kind of like on a very, very surface level was like, it's kind of piano teacher-esque with like this like obsession, the concert scene. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very like barely a comparison, but and we've been talking about it, so I was like,
I'm glad it didn't end the same way as the piano teacher without
No, me too.
without spoiling how that movie ends. But yeah.
Somehow I've not got that movie spoiled, so I'm doing good.
I quite enjoyed it though, but happy to hear if anybody else felt differently or had any thoughts.
Yeah, I liked it. Like you were saying, Gainsbourg's really good. There is a part that made me just like die laughing, and it's the little girl that hangs out with them, Lulu. Yeah. They're like having like a picnic with like her and Charlotte, and like isn't that their maid? Isn't it?
Yeah, she's like the housekeeper, kind
yeah.
of, or like local single mother who they just like hire to do.
Who's just like, hey guys, guess what? I'm gonna be a goddamn asshole today, just all day. It just sucks. Like,
yeah.
But they're just like hanging out, and Lulu comes by, and it's just like, hey, does your scar get tan? She's like, no, it's dead skin. It doesn't get tan. And she goes, you got dead skin, and you found a husband? I was like, god damn. That was brutal.
My favorite line that I thought was so funny, and I could not stop laughing, is like, there was like a scene like where Charlotte and Lulu, or yeah, that's the name of the younger like girl, were like having this fight, and Charlotte's like, your pussy stinks or whatever.
Oh my
god. And Lulu's like, I'm gonna tell my mom you said my pussy stinks. And I was like laughing for like 5 minutes. I thought I had to pause the movie, but it was just so fucking funny.
It's like, pretty good.
Yeah.
It's been a minute since I've seen a movie where something stung for that character, and I also found it so funny because I'm like, that's so mean, and yet at the same time I was laughing. Yeah, like
Lulu looks like little French girl version of Jonathan Lipnicki, and I couldn't stop thinking about that.
Totally.
what is it? Jerry
Do you know how
Maguire?
much a brain weighs?
Yeah.
Also,
And
this
then,
movie
like-
has the same ending closing credit scene as Predator, so that was funny.
Wait, what?
Where they all just like turn to the screen and there's like, and it shows, you know.
For whatever reason, when you said that, I'm like, did it end with like? It's been a minute since I've seen Predator. I was like, did it just end with like a zoom out of like Predator vision with like a red screen? Like, I was just like, what?
Yeah, just over that little pianist. Yeah. She was like, you ain't taking me on tour. If it doesn't bleed, kill it or whatever. Yeah, I don't really have much thoughts other than, yeah, I liked it. Good time. Charlie?
Yeah, I liked this too. I completely agree with you, Natalia, that like you hit the nail on the head with like it does capture that moment of, you know, you're in between being a kid and going and being, you know, and an adult, and like everything is so insular and everything you think you understand everything, like just because you're feeling everything for the first time makes you think that you understand how everything works. And I like how the film is so simultaneously empathetic to Charlotte Gainsbourg's character, but then a lot of the adults rightfully kind of call her out on her bullshit a lot of the time. And I can't help but think about, I had a lot of moments where I was like, I definitely had fights with my parents where I was just like, why won't you let me go to the sleepover on Friday night or something? And just like, definitely like so brutally honest where it was just like your whole world would crumble if like you couldn't see a friend on like a weekend night or you like something like that. But also as someone who was a bit of a weirdo growing up, you know, just feeling very ostracized and alone and feeling like you're never going to be able to get out of this and that your whole world is just defined by these little moments. So when you see someone on, you know, I never knew a classical pianist child prodigy on TV, but I do. It does make you feel for her when she has this naive wish fulfillment fantasy of I'm going to get out of here and just never deal with this again. And I have a younger sister who I remember starting to go out more often on like Friday and Saturday nights and feeling like leaving her behind definitely made me feel empathy for Lulu. And a lot of the time my heart broke for Lulu a lot of the time. And like, I think, you know, it's very emotionally frank about how she has every right to feel this way and how the world does kind of feel really scary and shitty when you're that age. And at the same time, just because you're feeling everything for the first time doesn't mean you understand the way the world works, but you feel the need to just lash out. Obviously, like not these are movies that are made later, but definitely thought about Welcome to the Dollhouse a little bit with that.
That's Alonso's my favorite director of all time.
Oh, really? Yeah. I love him too. And obviously that film's more abrasive and even more of a dark comedy and even crueler, I would say, as much as I love that movie. But yeah, there's an intimacy and an emotional honesty to this film that I did really connect with, and found, yeah, as you said too, Charlotte Gainsbourg, amazing actress, didn't know that she was acting this young, and she's clearly a star from this, and I found it very, very quiet, a quiet little gem, I would say.
Yeah.
There's the part where like she like beats the shit out of that guy with the globe, which is pretty cool. And then she races home and like her dad is half awake and she's just like, I just had a question. Like, if you like hit somebody with like a really hard glass object, like, and they don't die, can they die the next day? And he's just like, yeah. Like, I mean, yeah, man, probably.
I also like that that's never followed through with again. It was just she hit him and then he's out of the film. Who cares? He's a creep. I remember, because we were talking about Catherine Breillat in our last episode, I remember when I saw 8th grade at IFF Boston and Bo Burnham was there, and he even mentioned the films of Catherine Breillat and like certain French films as inspiration for eighth grade, and there is that whole subplot is very that reminded me. I was like, it does feel like kind of the same subplot in eighth grade with the older person hitting on the very underage.
This moment where you still feel like a kid, and then for some reason, like a man is talking to you, and then you realize you're like the object of desire in a way that's really scary and uncomfortable. And I think that this film captures the like fear of that, and like also the fear of saying no. Her whole experience with adults, like even if she's rebelling in her life now, is to not necessarily like go against what they ask you to do. So it's a really interesting dynamic. Something like eighth grade explores in a little bit more of a like appropriate or like sense where at least like they're supposed to be like in school together and there's like an age difference, but it's not as like blatantly like, yeah, like commenting on like the pedophilic nature of patriarchal society, and that like young girls like kind of do realize at a certain point like, oh, like this man like wants to like date me, but I still feel like a child, and that's scary. Which is why I wonder what that masturbation scene, like, I don't know how that.
Yeah,
that does not connect really at all. Yeah, that'd be weird because she doesn't seem to have. She does long for this pianist, but we don't know if it's romantic or if it's just like she's like a ticket out of whatever she wants,
right?
You know,
she like symbolizes something like just bigger than herself, and that's what,
like,
she attaches to. And it's like there's this like mania like around the child prodigy Claire Bowman. Like some like adults are like running after her car and like trying to like, you know, get her autograph or get her attention or praise her. So I think that it's also like getting swept up in the feeling that like the general town is going through.
Yeah.
But
I do think it's interesting that like pretty much as soon as she's like, well, I'm going on tour and whatnot, it's just like you're like, no, you're not. Like the way that she performs it is just like the way that you say this, I know you're not, because it's just not gonna happen, man. Just like, oh yeah, well I don't have to do that because in 2 days I'm getting out of here, and everybody's just like, no, you're not. You're gonna be here with me. It's gonna be just as bad as it was before, man.
I was even questioning because at the very beginning when she cuts her knee at the pool scene, there is, you know, a scene where this woman she wraps herself in a towel at first, but even the camera is kind of like emphasizing how naked she is. I was like, oh, is this going to be like a queer awakening film at first? Because at one point, like it cuts to like
it shows her boobs before it shows her face.
Exactly.
Yes.
And I was kind of like, is that? I mean, it's obviously intentional. It was shot that way, but I was like, is that? But me being gay, looking for anything gay in movies, you know, like I was just like, am I looking too hard? Like that type of thing.
Or does it start out with her like looking into like what's to come first,
yes,
you know, like developmentally, like, and kind of like also like assuming like this role of like trying to grow up, but like the contrast between like her and like a woman are like very glaringly obvious throughout the movie, I think.
Absolutely. Yeah, you just summed it up perfectly. Yeah.
Charlie is just like, oh, this movie's gonna be gay. Why is she talking about her dead mom? What's going on here?
Yeah, that too.
That's not fun.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, I liked this pretty well. There are moments that are still sticking with me, even though I watched this a couple of weeks ago. But part of me, I think, was wrestling with, like, you know, because I think Miller's style was pretty understated throughout. I was wondering if, like, that was, like, an approach that, like, worked for me in its sort of low-key style, or, like, if I was kind of longing for something a little bit more. Because the shot that really sticks out for me is the shot that was mentioned earlier about where she hits the guy with the glass sort of globe thing, which I think is a fantastic shot when, like, and especially it's really striking how, like, the sound cuts out when you'd expect, like, that to be sort of, like, have the loudest sound in the movie when she hits him over the head and everything. And it is like kind of in being silent, but also having, like, this close-up of, like, the slow motion, like, glass shattering against, like, a black background, and really, like, sticks out, like, sort of, like, the contrast. It really, I think, does hit home, like, sort of the weight of, like, also hitting with, like, a globe. It is, like, her world does feel like it's shattering, which I think, Natalia, you saying that everything kind of feels like the end of the world for a character at this age, which I think that moment conveys that really well.
I was just gonna say, I think that's, like, a really apt, like comparison for sure.
Yeah, and it's also funny. The thing that I was talking about with Kevin and Charlie in our I think on one of our previous calls was like it was interesting how like I would kind of get the two movies we're talking about, Sincerely Charlotte and Impudent Girl, mixed up, because one is called Sincerely Charlotte, but it doesn't have Charlotte Gainsbourg in it. That's the other one. That was like, and they're French movies, but it is interesting how like it is the thing that I'm watching Sincerely Charlotte today and watching this a couple weeks ago is like they are both movies about someone who is longing for someone and like then sort of realizing that it's not like the feeling isn't mutually returned or anything. I think there's even a point in Sincerely Charlotte, it's like you love her more than she actually loves you, and that is like what this is too, where like Charlotte Gainsbourg's character invests all the meaning in this, like in everything that this girl says to her and everything, and then at the end of the movie when she like sees her, the girl just like sort of like waves, sort of like confused, like, oh yeah, right, I think I remember you, and then like it's like it like that's so crushing, just that like it's not even like contempt. It's just like she just doesn't register on this girl's radar anymore after a certain point, which is so sad. And the adult relationships are very unusual. Even like the normal, like the ones that are like more functional, like Leon. Like you're right that like it's good that she does like sort of give a talking to Gainsbourg's character at certain points, but she could be a little bit gentler in the approach. I feel like she does it.
Like the scene where she gets that, she's like got a new nice red dress, and she's like, "Dog, you look like shit." And I'm just like, "You are a maid. Relax, dude."
Yeah.
Like she's like feeling so nice, and then she's just like, "Dog, you don't want to hear what I have to say because I'm gonna say you look like fucking shit." And I'm just like, "Why are you so mean?"
You let her just have this moment for like a bit, and do you also have to roast her in front of this other kid? Like it's so mean. But also it's like that weird thing with the guy who's with the piano prodigy for like the longest time, because like we're introduced to them I think when like they get like a flat tire, or no, they're looking for directions to like a garage. That's what it is.
Yeah.
I thought like, oh, that's like the kid's dad and everything, and then like it's revealed, no, he's not that. It's I don't know, he's just kind of there alone for the ride and everything.
He's like her handler or something.
Yeah.
Like
I thought it was just like a manager, because I think when he's like by the pool, I think he says that he like takes care of her stuff or something like that, something like that.
Yeah, but then like who's the guy? So the guy who like is then like telling the kid to practice, is that her dad? Like, or is he the manager? I mean, like it's a little unclear. Like sort of these people who are like and it's also kind of interesting where it's like the parent, whoever is like in charge of this kid, it's really, they're just viewing them as like the commodity of like, you have to practice and make money and stuff like that. But
Well, yeah, they're just leechers.
yeah, although it's disarming to me, at least emotionally, when the guy who is like just sort of the hanger on, who's like lounging by the pool, he does offer the kindness of giving Gainsbourg the autograph near the end of the movie and everything. I feel like that's like him like seeing how hurt the kid is, and then like, or maybe I'm misreading it, but like I feel like that's like a nice moment, a surprising moment of compassion from a character who just seems kind of ridiculous up until that point. Yeah, I don't know, that stuck out to me.
But also I feel like it's interesting because like also as kids, like do we understand like what any adult job is?
Right.
Like, or are these people just like around, like, and you don't really know why, like all these adults are
I'm an
everywhere.
adult
don't
and I
know.
still don't understand what some adult jobs are. I mean, like,
Well, yeah, because this one guy who like works at the shop that makes piano stools, I guess, where I'm just like, is that your whole job? And he's like, no, I work on a boat. And I'm just like, what? What do you
Yeah.
do? What do you do?
and a war broke out. That's an interesting scene too, where her brother, where they're watching war footage and she's just like bastards or something, and his brother's like, do you know why they're doing anything? And she's like, no. And he's like, okay, well, come back when you have like an informed opinion or something, which it does go into play with just reacting to something reflexively and just seeing something without ever fully understanding it, and the brother has to call her out and be like, do you know what you're looking at right now? Do you understand
No.
the context? Yeah. But there is some of that too, because yeah, he mentions like, oh, well, a war broke out and then I came back here. Yeah.
I think it that scene in particular and a lot of other ones, just like, especially after like she thinks that like in 2 days she's gonna go on tour and whatnot, it really just nails down what it's like to be a kid and just meander around a lot of times, where she's just like, oh, what are you doing? She's like, why don't you get out of here? She's like, I guess I wasn't really doing anything today anyways. Just a lot of like puttering and meandering around and just being a kid, I get, well, this is the summer, right? because they're about to go on summer.
Yes.
Yeah.
She
Yeah,
even has a moment where I don't remember what the exact word is, but it's basically like she's basically saying life's just too short, you know. And like I even
you were
remember,
13.
but didn't I? Maybe I'm being like a little too candid here, but didn't you ever have a moment where you just like went up to your parents and were like, "Do you think life's too short?" And they're like, "The hell are you talking about?" Like.
It's just, unfortunately, this is where my mind goes. That one scene in Wedding Singer where it's just like everybody's talking about it. He's like, what? The only people you know are your brother and me. Yeah, I don't really have that, but I do have more Adam Sandler references instead of like things that I asked my parents when I was young. That's about it.
I definitely was a very dramatic teenager, like for sure. I like would fight about such stupid shit. And I think like also like being like the oldest child, like you have to like test the boundaries of like what's okay and what's not. And yeah, I really related to her, maybe less like, I don't know, like there are some like the climax of the film, I feel like both Charlotte and Lulu are being like insane brats. Like I could never imagine putting up a spectacle like that, like as a child or teenager. But there are definitely scenes where I kind of understand like where that, I mean, I don't though, like where does all that like rage come from, considering like you live like in the French suburbs?
Boredom.
I guess you're dead, but yeah, exactly. Like this is what it is. You have so much more time on your hands with, and like a lack of like actual real world problems where you can start like concocting these scenarios out of boredom. And I think that's where the adults like come in and are like, why are you frustrated about this? Like, or shut up, like this is so not a problem. I had a lot of fake problems like that growing up.
Same. And I think you brought up a great point where I am also the oldest. I have a younger sister, and I am sure whenever I got in a fight with my parents that I don't have any vivid memories, but I'm sure I was just like, God damn it, I'm pissed off. Who can I take it out on? Oh yeah, the person who's littler, you know, the little person who also lives here or I interact with. I'm sure, like, I can't think of anything, but like off the top of my head right now, but I know for a fact I must have like taken out some just inner frustrations on my younger sister, and in this case the younger friend Lulu, who is sick, by the way. She's like she's got an illness.
Yeah, which we don't know if like because she like seems like, oh, she's playing it up, and then at the end where she's just like bleeding from her face, and then it's at the hospital. Because I literally thought it was going to end where she died, and then that was going to be it. I was like, well, that is a French way to end a movie.
I was very scared about that too, because it does kind of play with your emotions in a very clever way of like, she's staying, and then she just collapses, and you're like, oh God, please no. Like,
I was like, oh, we'll show her at this doctor's resort. Where is this? I don't know. It's like on the beach
or something.
In healthcare, it's just on another.
And it's just like, yeah, I'm fine. Yeah. All right. Well, see you later.
Just imagining some side character being like, I'm a doctor.
It's like a rubber hammer just hitting her in the knee. It's like, actually, I was bleeding from my nose. Oh, yeah.
Well, that is something to bring up, that the movie begins and ends with blood. I mean, which female coming of age too. I don't know if I'm reaching here, but I don't know.
Period. I don't know. That's the age you get your period.
I don't know. Like
I'm not engaged with it, but I understand. I'm not smart enough to think like that. Is there anything else we have to talk about with An Impudent Girl? I've never heard what it sounds like to watch The Exorcist French dubbed, so that was interesting.
That is interesting.
Yeah, true.
And it was interesting. I was trying to think of what scene are they watching right now, because they don't show what scene
What scene
is.
could it be?
Yeah, that's interesting. Part of me was thinking like, this is 1980, 86, 85. What if they'd gone to see like Had to Live and Die in LA come out in France yet at that point and everything? Like, I'm just thinking about like, what other freaking movies could they have gone to see? Which would be the worst date movie? He's like in his mid-20s taking a 15-year-old or like 13-year-old. That's a bad date regardless. And everything. But it's,
I don't know why. I'm sure the Exorcist would be far more traumatizing, but that would be funny if they went to go see like the original Boys in the Band or something. Also, now that we're talking about both of these movies, that would be funny if they were like, "Do you know where we're going?" And Isabelle Huppert just shows up and steals the child prodigy's car.
I do love how we didn't mention it in Sincerely Charlotte. She's just like, anybody in a car, she's like, hey, look that way. And they're just like, hey, my car.
Works every time.
Apparently it's so easy to steal a car in France.
And you were also talking about like how like this production of this movie, it's like, you know, like the wanting money for the rights to the novel and everything. They should have had like Isabelle Huppert like come by to collect the money, because this is Sincerely Charlotte. There's a moment where she says to Mathieu, it's like, you have money? Give me your money. And before she's even finished speaking, she just takes the money out of his hand and she just like goes up to Claude Miller and says like, oh, you have the money? Okay, cool, give it to me. And oh, I got it already.
I think that Isabelle Huppert could probably argue for the creation of any movie, so I don't know.
I would totally watch.
Let's see if her Bushwick son does anything interesting. In the future.
What I would give to watch a reality show where it's just Isabelle Huppert and Charlotte Gainsbourg like go to a bar and just dish, like it just, or a podcast even. I don't know. God, what the conversations those two would have.
Oh, I just noticed that both movies have a scene where the main character is like, hey, I got a nice red dress. Only one of them ends where it's just like, that shit ain't nice. And also, you're a bum. Like, what? I don't understand what is up her ass this entire movie. Literally the entire movie. It's not just like, oh, something happened and now I'm just like not really a fan of you, Charlotte. She's just like the main first like interaction they have, it's just like, have you ever seen somebody famous? And she's like, yeah. She was like, yeah, well, I saw that pianist when she was coming into town. She was like, oh, is that it? Is that your whole story? That's all you got?
I will say, it's what the bit of banter that they have where it's like saying, like, do you know who I saw today? No, but I think you're going to tell me. Like, I think that's what she says to her. That is a very adult, sort of playful adult thing to say. Yeah.
What if it was the maid from Billy Madison to tie it back to Adam Sandler movies?
Oh, yeah. You're gonna stay home from school today, and you just shave my armpits. Oh, God, I go to school.
Yeah. Sorry.
Is there any movie where we cannot just be like, this reminds me of that singing Billy Madison? We've done it with Benedetta. We've done it with French movies that really don't exist.
What if this movie started with Charlotte Gainsbourg chasing around the giant penguin?
That would
God
kick ass.
damn it.
That's why she didn't want to jump in the pool. Because that motherfucker was in there.
God damn it.
God. That is also a peak, like, that's a good, like, being a teenager and wanting to get the fuck out of here type of scene where it's just like there's people behind me, somebody telling me to jump. God. I don't want to jump, and then as soon as I get out, everybody's laughing at me and I have to run past them all.
Yeah, that
also,
really
I'm
does.
bleeding.
Yeah, was anyone in this conversation actually like a star pupil in gym class or any type of PE related thing? Yeah,
no.
Horrifying.
Literally brought down my GPA like single-handedly.
Oh my God.
I don't know why you're allowed to get an A or B or whatever in gym class.
Yeah,
it should be you showed up, cool. Yeah.
Exactly. I tried to play volleyball. It's my fault I'm not good at it. I don't know.
When I was in high school, I think maybe teachers recognized this and tried to like counterbalance, like, okay, well, maybe if you can't like get the physical part, we'll give you tests about like and ask you about like health and also like write about this basketball game or whatever. Like, what are the rules in basketball? And it's like, okay, I don't really care about that either, but all right. Yeah.
At least easy enough to be like, well, I don't have to like embarrass myself in front of other people to accomplish this assignment.
Yeah.
I remember there was one time in high school where we were all late to our next period class because we were doing cross-country skiing in gym class, and it was a very narrow, like, woods type of path. But it was one of those things where you could only do single file, like, literally. So someone, like, towards the front of the line fell, and you could literally see the pig pile just happening. We were like, well, this is happening. And it was literally like 10 of us just like in the snow, like cracking up. And then I just remember like, you know, like all of us just running to our next class being like, where the hell were you? Everybody fell down.
Did you fall down? No, but I had to check it out.
Yeah.
That sounds interesting. 95% of my gym classes were just, I don't know, play basketball.
Here's
Like,
a rubber
come on.
ball. Throw it at someone. Yeah. Like.
Oh yeah, we would play dodgeball, and it wouldn't even be good dodgeballs. You could barely throw them. Shit sucked. We had to be like 3 feet away from each other and stuff.
I was just gonna say that this conversation is traumatizing, honestly.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Oh man, keep going.
No, I'm joking, but like, yeah.
Yeah, it was either play basketball or go run on the track, and I was like, I'm not running on the track, but I will listen to my iPod while I walk the track, and then get in trouble because I have my iPod out.
Were you listening to "Hurt" by 9 Inch Nails while you did it?
Yeah, probably. It was probably it was right around that time. Right around the time that it was like in 8th grade and I had weightlifting class. It's just like,
You had weightlifting class?
yeah.
That seems like counterproductive. Like, isn't that bad for kids?
Yeah.
Like,
I should have actually been weightlifting. That would have helped a lot because I weighed probably 40 pounds in high school. But I used that time to watch cam rips of Saw sequels on my iPod Classic.
I think it's valuable.
I do remember that, and I'm pretty sure like I should have failed, but never did. I don't know how, but yeah. Watched a lot of cam rips on my iPod Classic, caught up with a lot of Californication episodes in weightlifting class. That and weeds, just all day.
I would like to see more Charlotte. I have a lot more Charlotte Gainsbourg movies in my watch list that I should probably get to. I feel bad that, I mean, as I said, The Snowman was my first exposure to her. I obviously heard of her, but that was the first proper movie I'd seen her in. But no, she's very good in this. I think really gets the sort of, it's interesting how she really does get like the physical sort of discomfort across and everything, like in that pool scene when she's just hunched up and has her arms shielding herself from the world. But then there are other times where she is just unleashing vitriol on people during one of her tantrums, and it's wow, this is alarming to hear. But also, yes, I've heard that seems like a very teenage way to talk. It'll be interesting to see other performances that she gave when she was an adult and see how it compares to this.
That is crazy to me that this is your first Charlotte Gainsbourg. So, okay, we got Kevin watching The Piano Teacher tonight. Bryden's going to go double bill the Nymphomaniac movies and Antichrist and Melancholia.
I will watch Melancholia. I don't think I'll see those other 3. That's fine.
Yeah,
but
it's because when you said that this is your first one, I was just like, yeah, the Lars von Trier movie is not exactly Bryden's bag, so I understand that.
Well, she's also she was also in I'm Not There. Have you seen I'm Not There? I mean, that's not one.
No, I was too young when that came out to see it, but I should see that. I will say it is the thing of looking through her filmography, especially doing research. And look, sometimes it's just it depends on what I'm in the mood for at the end of the night. A lot of the movies that she's in look very intense. I mean the Von Trier movies, and then even some of the Hollywood stuff. I'm The Pale Blue Eye. The Edgar, the murder history. I'm I don't know if I want to watch that right now.
Oh, you could watch Jane Eyre.
Oh, is that the Mia Wasikowska
Plays
one?
young Jane Eyre.
Ah.
The 1996. Franco Zeffirelli.
Oh.
I think I remember seeing this trailer on a playlist of old movie trailers I was watching. Just as one does.
Good. I was a huge fan of Jane Eyre, the novel, when I was growing up. So I liked this movie too.
Thank you. I'll watch this today.
I remember being so psyched for Nymphomaniac when it came out.
I watched it.
Well, I like Volume 1 a lot more than I like Volume 2, but I do remember I was reviewing it for Edge Media, and I remember I was flying to Austin for South by Southwest 10 years ago, and I checked my email, and the link came in when I was about to board my flight, and then there was no one sitting next to me. And I was like, dare I? But I ultimately didn't go for it because I was worried that someone would ask me if I wanted a drink, would look at my screen and be like, you'll be arrested when we land, sir. Yeah, it's just, yeah. She is good in those. And yeah. Same with Antichrist. Antichrist also a unique theatrical experience in which the only time I heard grown adults completely screaming at the screen and not teenagers. Yeah.
Even better, I found a movie she's in from 2019, and it's called My Dog's Stupid.
Wait, My Dog's Stupid or My Dog's Stupid?
No, just My Dog's Stupid.
For whatever reason, I'm just imagining the My Dog Skip poster, but with adult Charlotte Gainsbourg, and it just says My Dog's Stupid.
instead of Frankie
D.
Muniz. My dog's stupid.
It's directed by her partner, Yvonne Detal. Wow, that's interesting.
Wow.
Oh, really? Okay. It was just like, yeah, this is our passion project. We go to sleep at night and we're just like, what do you want to make a movie about? Let's do a movie about Howard fucking dumbass dog. That is the greatest title ever. My dog's stupid.
Look up the poster too. The dog is like, it's like a dog. The dog sitting on a couch with glasses, looking very mopey.
He can't be stupid. He's wearing glasses. Come on. Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Almost Major. Please rate, review, and subscribe to us on iTunes. Please follow the pod on Twitter at Almost Major to keep up to date with what movies we will be covering in the future. Myself, I can be found on Twitter and Letterboxd at Kev Bonesy. Bryden can be found on Twitter at Bryden Doyle and on Letterboxd at J Doyle. Charlie can be found on Twitter and Letterboxd at CT Nash91. Once again, thank you for listening.